And the spring arose on the garden fair, like the spirit of love felt everywhere. And each wildflower and herb on earth's dark breast rose from the dreams of its wintry rest. The snowdrop and then the violet arose from the ground with the warm rain wet, and their breath was mixed with the sweet odour scent from the turf like the voice and the instrument. Hello and welcome. My name is Frances Billinghurst, and that was an excerpt from Percy Bysshe Shelley's poem, The Sensitive Plant. Welcome to this exploration of the Sabbath series. If you do not know me, I am an initiated witch of a contemporary witchcraft tradition, author of books such as Dancing the Sacred Wheel, which I read that poem from, and High Priestess based here in Adelaide, South Australia. And in this presentation, we are going to be exploring the second spring Sabbath or seasonal festival known as the Spring Equinox or Ostara or Eostre. And I'm just going to share my screen with you because I have a PowerPoint presentation. And before we go any further, I just want to, if this will let me do it, here, no, don't be ahead of myself. Just want to acknowledge country, and in doing that, I'm just going to remove myself from the screen. I acknowledge the Kaurna people of the Adelaide Plains, who are the traditional custodians of this land upon which I'm recording this presentation. In doing so, I pay my respects to the elders past, present, and emerging. So the spring equinox, the time of balance. The word equinox comes from the Latin meaning equal night, and are 2 times of the year when the hours of light and dark are said to be equal, as the sun rises due east and sets due west. It is one of the few days when the Earth's axis is straight as a doorpost, or so it's said, and as such suggests to us a time of balance, or almost, has arrived. At the spring equinox, the sun crosses the celestial equator from the northern to the southern sky. Now, this will take place around the 23rd of September this year at 5:21 a.m. Australian Central Standard Time. And to some people, it is considered to be the first day of the astronomical spring, as from this point onwards, the hours of daylight will increase as the hours of darkness decrease. Nature echoes that increasing warmth with blossoms bursting forth and new growth making its presence felt. As the sun's strength increases, so do the visible signs of activity upon the Earth's surface. It is as if you were to close your eyes for a moment. You would miss the experience of another aspect of creation being reborn all over again. And here is just a picture of the wisteria bush outside my place. You can see the catkin that was pretty predominant at Imbolc about 6 weeks ago. And now all these beautiful lilacly purple flowers with their delicate scent fills the air. September marks the arrival of the breeding season of the iconic koala. This top image here, with the sound of the males making themselves heard with their territorial bellows. The breeding cycle in some places commences as early as August and continue until February, while the birthing period lasts from around about October through to April, as koalas are only pregnant for 25 days. The spring equinox marks the birthing time of another unique Australian, that of the southern hairy-nosed wombat in this bottom picture here. Along the semi-arid sandy plains of the southern coastal regions of Australia and the mallee scrubland of the eastern Nullarbor Plain, these nocturnal animals make their appearance known. They are believed to be the world's largest burrowing herbivore, as well as being the state animal for South Australia where I live. So we have the koalas and also the southern hairy-nosed wombat. As the sun moves into the sign of Libra, in the skies above us, a lot is happening. And this is an image taken from the Museum of the Applied Arts and Sciences. And from their website, they provided the following information. So Virgo, the maiden, is low on the western horizon. Not quite in this picture. It's the second largest constellation and one of two in which the ecliptic and the celestial equator cross. So here's Libra there. That's the sun's moving into. And here's Virgo. Scorpius, which is here, is high in the western sky and has its hooked tail and the red supergiant Anatis at its heart. In Greek mythology, the scorpion plays a role in many stories. However, it is probably best known in its pursuit of Orion through the night sky. Next to Scorpius is Sagittarius. And in Greek mythology, Sagittarius the archer is the centaur, pointing its arrow towards the heart of Scorpius. And further west we go is Capricornus, the sea goat, often associated with the Greek god of nature Pan. He transformed his lower half into a fish to swim to safety during an attack on Jupiter by Typhon. Halfway through the transformation, he played the loud note on his coat shell, which distracted Typhon long enough for Jupiter to strike him down with thunderbolts. As a reward, Jupiter placed him in the sky as he was, half goat, half fish. And it is actually the smallest and second faintest constellation of the zodiac. Continuing west, we have Aquarius, the water carrier, high in the eastern sky. It's described as the Trojan youth, Ganymede. It's also the name given to the largest moon of the solar system, who was carried by an eagle, which can also be seen high in the north at Mount Olympus to serve the water to the Greek gods. There's the eagle there. And last but not least, the iconic Southern Cross crux, just down here. Very low in the southwest. And to find south, draw an imaginary line from the top of crux through to the bottom and across the sky. Midway between the pointers, draw another line perpendicular to the line that joins them. And where these two lines meet and then move due south is the celestial pole. So we've got crux here. Got the two pointers, Alpha Centauri. So we're going from here and then also from there. So we're going to about here and then straight down. When it comes to the planets, we have Mercury, low in the west in Virgo. We have Venus, low in the northwest, just after sunset. Mars is too, so that's Mercury. This is Mars here. It's too close to the sun to see. We've got Jupiter and Saturn, both here in Capricornus. And the Milky Way, best seen from the dark rural locations far away from the light pollution of the city, with its centre in a Sagittarius, high over our heads. The faint glow of millions or billions of stars extends from the low southwest across the sky to the northeast. And if you can see the Milky Way, look for the dark patches which the Aboriginal peoples follow. Look for the emu. Look for its head and its neck in the sky. And talking about Aboriginal observances, the local Kaurna people of the Adelaide Plains, for them the spring equinox continues the Kaladalu season that I talked about in the previous presentation about Imbolc, which lasts from about July through to September. Likewise, Nurrunjeri people of the lower Murray River and the Coorong areas, the season from August to October is Rurua. Up north in the top end around Darwin, the hot and dry season of Coorong continues until about early October. And this first diagram here is of the Kaurna people of the Adelaide Plains of all their seasons. And so we are in here in Kalgoorlie. And this second image is from Kakadu. And here we are in Coorong. So about halfway through Coorong, if you're living in the Northern Territory. Within my tradition of contemporary witchcraft, and echoing which is occurring in nature around, the young horned god increases not only his strength, but also his knowledge of the role he plays within the sacred wheel of life. He realizes his potential, his masculine power, and he ventures out into the world, ready to establish his rule and prove his manhood. He is now mastering his own mysteries, that of the divine masculine. His rough and tumble childhood games serve little purpose as he matures into the hunter, the warrior. Eager to impress, to make a statement, and to announce his arrival, he bounds forth with great exertion. That is, until he is distracted by the sight of his beloved. Under his nose, she has blossomed into a creature of exquisite beauty, shyly toying with him to gain his attention. However, the maiden goddess is not as naive as she may appear, for she too has been schooled in the mysteries and knows only too well the cycle of life and the roles that she and her beloved God will play within them. The goddess is ready to fulfill her role, to become pregnant in order for life to continue, while the god is holding the potent seed of life itself. The pace quickens. Their eyes meet like a classic Hollywood romantic movie, and the game commences. Both are aware of their own sexuality and their role within the life of creation. We have this beautiful painting of spring by Franz Xavier Winterhalter. And this rather sensual image of the young god, horned, ready to take on the world. And unfortunately, I do not know who the author is of this beautiful painting. An alternate name for the spring equinox is Ostara Eostre, after the Anglo-Saxon goddess. Around 730 Common Era, English Benedictine monk Bede recorded that the Anglo-Saxons worshipped a goddess by the name of Eostre. While there's actually little evidence to support this statement, modern historian Ronald Hutton has indicated that Bede declared that the name of the Christian festival of Easter was derived from the goddess Eostre, as the month in which Easter fell was originally known as Ostara month, after the goddess Eostre, meaning month of opening, or the month of beginnings. In the Northern Hemisphere, this makes sense, as Easter falls on the Sunday after the first full moon, following the spring equinox. And this is why we have symbols such as the egg and hare or rabbit associated with Easter. Here in the Southern Hemisphere, however, Easter occurs after the autumn equinox, and therefore this symbolism doesn't seem to fit in at all. In Greek mythology, the spring equinox is usually associated with the time when the goddess Persephone returned from the underworld to be reunited with her mother, Demeter, the grand goddess. This reunion brings the abundance back to the earth, as spring has now returned. As life bursts forth, we are confident that the chains of winter are finally broken. And Helena Nelson Reid has this beautiful depiction of Ostara. And to the right is another unknown image that I found, and again, very beautiful, depicting the goddess, the opening of spring. As I've mentioned, the Northern Hemisphere realigns itself with the Christian festival of Easter occurring at the spring equinox, and therefore allowing borrowed items or images of eggs, rabbits, or more appropriately, hares to fit. However, when Christianity came to the Southern Hemisphere, Easter arrived with a fixed timing throughout the year. And it meant that the resurrection of Jesus occurred at the autumn equinox instead of the spring. During my childhood, the motives of eggs and rabbits during Easter were never really effectively explained to me. I recall being told that the egg was so because it was shaped of the oval stone that was rolled in front of Jesus's tomb, whereas the rabbit somehow had a connection of there being a rabbit sighted at the crucifixion. Well, I'll give points for originality. It wasn't until many years later that I learned the associations of the early pagan festivals, deities, and in particular Ostara. And as such, after I made that awareness and that connection, the symbolisms of the eggs and the rabbits or hares at Easter made sense. There is a scientific explanation behind the association of Easter and the eggs. However, egg production in hens is encouraged when the bird's retinas are stimulated by more than 12 hours of light. It's little wonder then that when the hours of light steadily increase from the spring equinox onwards, the natural egg-laying production also increases. And also in their book, The Myth of the Goddess, Evolution of an Image, Anne Baring and Jules Cashford mention that single egg divides, becomes two. And from the separation of the two halves, the male, the golden yolk, and the female, the fertilizing egg white, creation comes. This motive, originating in Paleolithic era, is clearly painted on Neolithic vessels several thousands of years before it appears in the great Bronze Age civilizations of Sumer, Egypt, and Crete. This memory lingers in the custom of Easter eggs and also in the old wise tale of the stork carrying a baby. The symbol of the egg is also believed to be derived from a Druidic creation story in which the goddess took the form of a bird and laid the world egg. After being warmed by the sun god, the egg split open and the world was brought into being. Spring equinox is all about balance. And maybe it's time for you to focus on bringing some balance into your life. Getting out into nature if you can. Connecting with the earth below, the cosmos above. Finding what's important in your life. And I will be presenting tree meditation, which can be used as a centering, balancing meditation. in a separate video that you might wish to check out. Spring cleaning at the spring equinox. As Imbolc is the time to organise new projects, the spring equinox is the time to start them, to make the most of the energy and activity at this time before the heat gets too hot, especially in the Southern Hemisphere. It is the time to also think about our time management skills. How often have you caught yourself saying that you simply do not have time to do things? But how much time do you actually waste? Time is such a precious asset, especially today. But do you really want to deal with it? It is your choice to make the most of your time. The spring equinox is a good time to getting rid of all rubbish, both externally and internally. And we all have heard about spring cleaning. It's a good time to shake off the winter blues and stagnations and lethargic attitudes that may have crept in along with the cold winter nights. And spring cleaning is not limited to just physical cleaning of cupboards and wardrobes. It's also good for getting rid of outdated viewpoints, emotional attachments to items and people that no longer bring any positive attributes to our own personal growth. And when we do this, we also make room for allowing the fresh and the new to come into our lives. For the magical person, you might like to strip back your altar, wash the altar cloths, polish the brass, the candlesticks, the incense burner, remove any old candle wicks that's on the walls, floor, if you're like me, again from the altar cloth, from other instruments that you use. Cleanse your crystals. I tend to cleanse my crystals just once or twice a year. I don't normally do it at every full moon. But I have big crystals in the room there. I do my circle work, and this is the time when I cleanse those. I either smudge them with a specific incense that I make through my Luna Noir Creations Etsy store. Or if you don't have any specific incenses for cleansing crystals or sprays, frankincense, sandalwood, white sage, if you have any, can be used as well. It's also a good time to tidy up your book of shadows, magical journal, all those projects that you've been putting off. And in doing that, here's the book, Dancing the Sacred Wheel. And to the right where you can find me, I'll just come back onto the screen. So what I shared with you was an excerpt from Dancing the Sacred Wheel. It's available online, at markets, through my Luna Noir Etsy store, through Amazon, a number of bookshops, market stalls around Australia, as well as said on the internet. Where you can find me, I'm on Facebook. I have an authors or writers blog, not very well kept up to date, but I do the best. High Priestess of the Temple of the Dark Moon. We have a website. We're also present on Facebook. If you want to check out some events that we have coming up, including Dark Moon Circles, Full Moon Circles, have another element of Witchcraft series in November, as well as taking expressions of interest for a regular meetup starting next year. And I did mention my Etsy store, Luna Noir Creations. And if you found this on YouTube, I've got more videos there, and I'm intending to put up even more educational ones at a later stage. And I'm on Instagram and Twitter as well. So I'll just reintroduce myself. So I hope you enjoyed that, or this presentation on the spring equinox. And if you would like to see any more videos, please feel free to subscribe to my channel. Leave comments below. I'll list in the comments section some more information that may assist you. And until then, blessed be.